Good morning and welcome to the Talk of the Town. I'm Sonali Vanigapadage. Joining me in the studio is Bhavani Fonseka, Senior Researcher at the Center for Policy Alternatives. Good morning and welcome, Bhavani.
Good morning, Sonali.
Bhavani, across South Asia, we are increasingly witnessing governments using the law to curtail dissenters and clamp down on civil society organizations and curb the free press. If we take the ICCPR Act of Sri Lanka, we see instances where the act is used in a selective manner. It sometimes targets individuals or groups. In the recent past, we've seen authors, poets, comedians, writers, dissenters of the government being arrested under it. Speak to us about this double standard.
So, Sonali, we've seen how the ICCPR has been used over the recent years, where individuals, as you mentioned, who write, who use satire have been targeted. But unfortunately, what we've also seen is individuals involved in inciting violence not being held to account. And more recently, where we've seen now an individual who made some very disturbing speeches and it's captured in the media, and we're yet to see any form of accountability. So it raises a question that we've also raised before, that whether particular individuals are above and beyond the law, are possibly even protected by law enforcement authorities, while those who are writing or commenting and using their freedom of expression are particularly targeted and sending a clear, chilling message in terms of dissent. So very, very worrying in terms of the application and the inaction in some cases.
It's so important to ensure the prevention of ethno-religious violence in Sri Lanka, given Sri Lanka's troubled history. I'd like your perspectives on police inaction in these kinds of incidents where we see rebel rousing by certain people, groups, religious leaders, political leaders.
Well, what's clear is that if you look at just the last couple of years and then the recent days, the police seems to have a selective application of the law. And that is that particular individuals, prominent individuals, religious leaders who are seen, and these are captured statements in the media, who are using incitement, targeting particular communities, minorities in particular, they seem to be able to carry on as usual. There is no repercussion, there is no investigation as far as we know that takes place. Whereas individuals who write, who comment, who are comedians are arrested because individuals make a complaint. So you see a double standard in terms of how the law enforcement authorities operate within this particular law. And I think this is also very worrying, that it sends a message that some people can get away with inciting, can get away with violence, and that they enjoy impunity. So I think it's very important for the authorities to send a clear message that everyone is equal when it comes to the law, and the law will be applied when there is evidence of incite.
Sri Lankans have been moving from one crisis to the other, to the next. Don't we deserve a life of softness, of stability, of certainty, Bhavani?
We do. I think every citizen would want that in any country: stability, certainty, security. And I think that's a clear demand that we've also seen over the years by people when they go to the polls. But that said, I think Sri Lanka, we need to realize, is in one of those unprecedented crises. It's an economic crisis, and we are going into an election year in 2024. So I can't see a situation where there is complete calmness. There is going to be uncertainty into the coming months. That said, I think it's very important, Sonali, to remember that Sri Lankans have been able to respond to crises, and they're very resilient. So what is important in in a situation where we know things are going to be uncertain into the coming months, we are going to likely see a lot more situations where there is fear that people will face, that people also respond responsibly, that they don't resort to incitement or violence. We need to learn from our own past. And unfortunately, as everyone knows, Sri Lanka has had a very the legacy of the violence is with every generation in this country. So I think if any lesson is to be learned, we need to be responsible citizens. We need to think about how we respond in the short term, but we also need to think about long term. Reconciliation, peace, stability is not going to happen overnight. We need to work towards that. And for that, we need the citizen to also take stock and be responsible in how we respond to these instances.
All right. Thank you very much, Bhavani Fonseka, Senior Researcher, Center for Policy Alternatives. Thank you for listening to us, and it's back to the studio.